Hello, everyone. This is Katrina McHide on the Narrow Path here on Tim McHide's YouTube channel. Today we have a beautiful day. It's been really cold the past few days, but today it actually feels nice. I at least have a sweater and a dress on anyway, a skirt, and the leaves are just beautiful. Both Tim and I have walked by the windows and went, "Oh, beautiful, it's all yellow." We don't have any reds, but I'll show you the backyard here, just all the beautiful leaves. Now this is happening for many of you in the northern hemisphere, coming to this time of year. And so some of you may look at that as, ooh, work, and others may go, ooh, fun. And we're about to end up in transition times here, with, fall being here for many of us, or some of us transitioning into spring. And transition times can be a really stressful time sometimes, and it can knock us off of our game. And I've noticed actually the past couple days that I've really had to pay attention. I really had to pay attention to try to stay on the narrow path. On the narrow path is basic idea of being godly in ungodly circumstances. Yeah, I still have to work at it as well and have to think about what I'm doing. And typically in transitions, what happens is we don't like what we're going through, or we're so unused to it. We're transitioning from having things going a certain way and doing a certain pattern of things, and then all of a sudden it changes to something else, right? So, for instance, I have the past couple days been waking up with Zachary earlier. He woke up really early this morning, 2 hours earlier than he should have, and I had gotten to bed late, like I usually do because of my job. And so when I first wake up, I think many people are like me, sometimes having that transition from being asleep to being awake can be a very vulnerable time to try to act godly in an ungodly hour. So that happens with us in transition. So I know this is the fall time, and for instance, we're in the transition time of the end of the month. Many of you know what that means, right? Paying bills and transitioning into the new month, and it's all, this year's almost over, and we're going into transition. We've got the last 2 months left here before this year ends on the Gregorian calendar anyway. And so all of these transitions can be really stressful, and we tend to forget God. We forget Yehovah and his ways during this time. So, I was irritated this morning, and it was really, I felt kind of like inside that I really wanted to be really irritated at other people, especially, and Tim says, "You look really mad." I said, "I'm just irritated at the circumstances. I'm not mad at anyone, but I'm irritated at the circumstances." But I felt that inside that, there was a part of me that wanted to just lash out at everything. 4 a.m. in the morning is just an ungodly hour. So many of you are probably laughing, going, "Oh, I totally could relate." Or the transition of going out the door and then having to get through traffic, right? Or trying to get home and traffic's not being nice to you. Anyway, all about transitions. You go through them all the time. So my point is that everyone gets these transitional times, and they can be very difficult to stay on your game and be godly during it. But that is the narrow path. It's being godly in ungodly situations. So maybe this would be a thoughtful time to evaluate all the transitions that you go through, and start to maybe once an hour set an alarm, and see if you can find out the transition into the next hour and the transitions that you have during that time, to consider asking God to be a part of it. So when you start feeling angry, anxiety, or things transition, especially unexpectedly and in difficult times, to learn how to stop and just breathe, take 3 breaths and go, okay, God is here with me. Because if you can bring God in here with you, then first of all, you're not going through the transition alone. And second of all, you can remember who you are, which is child of the King. And we're supposed to have a different response than the rest of the world. So the world will be the world, and it will be ungodly, and it will do ungodly things to us and set up very circumstances that are just no fun to go through. And it is our job to be different. So these are actually exercises or practices of how we can become more God-like, to be prepared for eternity. What is God-like? It's more loving. It's learning how to love him in his way, which is loving our neighbors ourselves, and taking care and being thoughtful for everything that he's given us, the people that he's given us in our lives, the opportunities he's given us, every breath of air that he gives us, toothpaste if you have it, and salt if you don't. Learning how in the hardest situations to find a way to have a response of service. Because truly, what we give, what with our free will we have to offer to God is, since he gave us time and he gave us free will to use it as we choose, the truth is that he, with that free will, we can choose to go back to him and say, you're our dad. You get to tell us how we are, where we are, who we are, and guide us along the narrow path. Or we can continue to do what we have been trained from conception on to do. We did it our way, or our parents' way, or whoever. You get the point. So take this time, transitional time, and be willing to look at the beautiful leaves and the beautiful opportunities you have every day. I'm sure all of you go through many transitions every day. And during the holiday season that we're coming up on, especially, this is a time to practice. So Father has given us a classroom to be able to practice to become more like him. And it means that you have to be interested in doing that. He will help you. So just recognize that and pray for that along the way. And I'm going to put a prayer out for you. And, I suggest that you do make a prayer like, early in the morning. Just, Father, help me to remember you. Help me to remember your way as I walk through the day. And remember, you're not alone. I mean, King David, he messed up during a transition. He came from war and they came back home. And what happened? He was resting in his palace and saw this beautiful woman named Bathsheba, and a whole situation encountered from that. That was a fall for him. And as well as the Israelites, right? They were transitioning out from Egypt into the wilderness, and they complained, and it was hard and grumbled, and that did not go well. And then they had transition trying to come into the land of Israel and into the land of Canaan. And they saw the giants, and that was a transition, and the concept of having to face the giants. And they got all complaining again, and they fell down on remembering that God said he'd always be there with them to help them face their giants, and that he was going to help fight their wars against them. They decided, they're too big. We're like grasshoppers in their sight, which they were. They were puny compared to those giants, but God had a plan. So God always allows you to walk amongst things that are way bigger than you are. But that is the opportunity that we get in order to be able to practice the things of learning how to trust in him with our whole heart, and learning how to be godly when we feel like being ungodly. So I pray for you in Yeshua's name. I ask, Father, that you bless everyone that watches this, to help to put into their minds on a consistent pattern, not in guilt, Father, but in conviction that they need to work on their transitional times to be more like you, and to show that they trust you in those times, even when things look really bad, Father. And I ask you to bless their efforts in doing that, and for them to take full advantage of the transitional times that we're in right now on the earth, wherever we're at, in the moments that we have, and help us to be a blessing to those around us, because you are our blessing, and you have provided abundantly for us and will help us through all things. You will never leave us or forsake us, and I'm thankful for that. So I praise you in Yeshua's name. Amen. So if this has helped you, feel free to leave comments. Love to hear how this is working for you. Here on our channel, you can click subscribe so that way you can get some notifications, or at least be able to find us easier again. And there's a little bell next to the subscribe button. And that little bell, if you push it, it makes sure that you get notifications every time we put something new up on Tim McHyde's YouTube site. Also, you can leave comments and get a bunch of free stuff, newsletters and stuff at escapeallthesethings.com and keep up with us. And I want to share with you, to all of our supporters, it's because of you that we can make free content like this, and we just genuinely thank you. And the public who can't afford it, I want on their behalf to be able to thank you, to be able to support us well enough in order to be able to do some free content like this. And to those supporters that follow us, the workbook is coming. Keep praying. It's coming. It's starting to flow now, and that's part of the newsletter. This week is a transition into the workbook, but some of the workbook stuff is coming as well, and we're looking forward to when we can finish up the first chapter in the introduction and get it out to our supporters to be able to look at first, and their own private viewing of it first, to help us to see how it's working and how we can make it better so that we can make it public for free when we get the whole workbook done. So thank you for hanging in with us, and we just bless you, and we're so thankful for you, and may we walk this narrow path together with perseverance all the way to the end, and be together in harmony and unity from here on out in this life and the next. Bye for now.